Good evening. Welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Backstage Pass. I'm your host, Vince Edwards. You may know me from Sound Image Productions, or on Facebook we have a couple closed roadie groups, one called Death by Loadout and one called The Backstage Pass. This show is intended to be a companion piece to the Backstage Pass roadie group on Facebook. Check us out. Of course, I don't do this alone. Right next to me, my good friend, Kyle Thomas.
How you doing, brother?
Oh, baby. I'm living the dream is what's happening. I'm making the best of a tough situation, and I get to do it with my friends. What more could I ask?
I love it. The beard's getting longer every day.
So me and Billy Gibbons, we got a little fucking bet going, talking about who's going to win the length thing. Now, admittedly, he's had a little bit of time on me, and he's got a little more length, but I'm younger, and Billy's going down. So he's going to owe me that $5 one way or another. I'm working on it.
Oh, man, now you have documentation.
Yeah, you heard me, Billy. I'm gunning for you. I got it. He's a fun guy. I love that man. How have you been keeping yourself busy this week?
I have been really good. I've been busy. I really want to focus more on what AJ Fridelli brought to your group the other day and informed us all in, was the Chicago March around the City Hall. All the lighting crew,
the cases and
all of them.
It was pretty great. Yeah.
And now I think it's really important to talk about maybe if our viewers want to get a hold of us or shoot an email out to any of us, any communication possible about maybe starting something up here. It sounds like AJ's posted publicly that he's trying to get some sort of something set up with the Opera House. A lot of people have responded in the areas.
Yeah.
And I think he's trying to get a permit right now. So if somebody wants to contribute or be a part of it, get a hold of us.
Get in on the planning. AJ's easily PM him on Facebook. Most of you already know him. He's a legend in this business and as a coordinator of things.
And he was a guest on this show.
He was a guest recently.
He's a very solid dude with some great ideas.
We love the guy, always coming from the right place. And I guess the idea with that is show these people it's not just bartenders and gyms and whatever, the majority of the folks that have been hit by this having to close down. We closed down first, as far as I could tell, and it's been really tough on a lot of people, financially, obviously, and in other ways. So I think us coming together in a moment like that, all joined up and pushing a few cases each.
Yeah, even if it's like 4 hours of your time that you can donate, and a couple of empty cases,
Just to remind them, hey.
Yeah, we're here.
We're bummed out. The baker and the butcher and the drink maker are having trouble too, but don't forget about us.
That's right.
The people that help build in memories for you. I just noticed one thing quickly. Sorry to go off track. Somebody even took a knife. Who's got a knife? You're going to be in a lot of trouble. I have a lot of other knives to get that knife back with.
Oh yeah, it's right.
As I put it. I put it in the my guest back earlier. I forgot about that. He'll be fine. I sprayed Bactine on it. When I was coming up, Bactine fixed everything.
See, you're a forgetful bloke.
Yeah, baby. So you heard any new or interesting things in the webinar training world?
I have, yeah. We're still trucking along with the Scoville training.
Yep.
He's
a great man.
I've been looking more and more into these other companies, and really the two big ones that really need the light here and are so underutilized is Diablo Digital and Bernie Broderick's program with Truth and Audio.
Yeah.
I think that those two really need to be shown a little bit more attention, and they have great curriculum lined up in the near future for people that are interested. So.
Well, think about it this way. The three names you just mentioned, Diablo Digital is two names. It's Greg Price and Brad Maddox, and then Bernie Broderick. Between them, that's over 100 years of experience in doing this
it's
at
incredible
an extraordinarily high level.
Absolutely.
These guys aren't putting speakers up on sticks in the clubs and parks. This is stadium guys that, luckily for us, and their nature and their character, they're willing to share their skills with some of the younger guys and some of us. So that's a really good point to make. I think Bernie's one of my best friends in the whole fucking world, and I love me some Greg Price and Brad Maddox, so I hope they understand and know that we love them for it, and I couldn't agree with you more. I know that Diablo Digital is up to something, building some content or something, so for you guys to keep an eye out for that, and Bernie's got the Truth and Audio site. Matter of fact, should we segue to this?
Maybe.
Because we had this unusual thing happen to Kyle and I, which really didn't happen to us, but it affected us. Our incredible 35-year, I want to say 36-year friend in the business that was to be the guest tonight, coming out of Las Vegas, and plus he was going to do a show, and still is going to.
He still will.
Yeah. He got broke down in the band van somewhere, California, Nevada border, I'm thinking. And so we changed gears. We're going to still put on a little show, a little live stream. Keep a lookout for that with Lovers and Strangers. I want to say over the weekend. I don't have the date nailed down in my head, but soon. And so we'll do that, an actual rock show with the band in this same space. Turned out to be a place to gig on.
That's right. It looks like Sunday's the day it will air.
Yes, that would be ideal. Keep your eyes out. That thing will be happening. Ray, we hope you and the boys are all good, and we miss you and understand completely. So we will rebook you, buddy. I need to have this interview with you. You're fascinating, and we love you. But what we did do, because I got this friend of mine who lives on the same block as I do. We live right down the street from each other, not 150 feet away. I was able to bring in the one, the only, Mr. Bernie Broderick. Bernie Broderick, how are you, sweetie?
I'm good, man. I'm hanging in there.
Oh, man, we've missed you. Well, I get to see you frequently, but you know what I mean.
The ponytail's glistening in this light.
He looks very smart.
You look pretty good, too.
Thanks,
just saying.
man.
You know, there's been a lot of homoerotic talk going on. I ain't got no problem with that. Whatever you guys do, but we're gonna run this show right here, right now. I don't want anybody falling
your
in love
rules.
until after the show.
Okay.
Okay. All right. It's just
By your rules.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So again, great to see you. Thank you for filling in on such short notice. You're precious to me. You're a gem of a friend. You were literally one of my best friends, if not the. And tell me about how you've been keeping care of yourself over this last few months. What have you been doing?
Wow. Diversifying.
You've always been good at that.
Yeah. So, my sister's a doctor. I kind of recognized very early on from my communications with her and my family that this pandemic was not going to be short, and it was not going to be pretty. So I kind of knew from the beginning that we're in this for the long haul, even though there was glimmers of hope along the way that, things were looking bright. But I just kind of started opening my mind up and saying, look, if the live entertainment industry is not running, my services, what I'm used to doing has, gone from bright to dim. So I have to look at other means of survival and other avenues. I was in not an enviable position because as we were going into this pandemic, I was heavily invested in Truth and Audio.
Yeah.
So I had invested up to the hilt in getting this thing up and running and doing it right, and doing it right costs a lot of money. So this hit me particularly hard because I wasn't prepared for it. As a matter of fact, I had all my chips in on getting the company up and running. Yeah. But, you look at other things, you look at other skill sets that you may have, you look at other opportunities that you may have, keep your eyes open. And sit down, look at the landscape. What other skills do I have? What other things can I do? And so I've been exercising those things.
So what I'm hearing is keeping yourself busy, keep your head straight, don't let it get caught thinking too much and believing in your brain, not always telling the truth, But I know that about you. Your work ethic is really, I can't think of anybody that could even keep up with you. You're like 39 right now?
Yeah, 38 and a half.
38 and a half, this mini, and but yeah, you're always busy. You're always working your ass off. I know you got projects up in the air. Yeah. Let's pull back to early days. Now, of course, I know the story more or less consists of I was in a rock band. I loved playing music, and then one day because that's how all of our story goes. So, yeah. But talk to me about how you got from your love of music, early days, Canada. You're back in Canada. Bernie's a Canadian. He's one of the nice ones, not like those mean bastards.
Not the mean Canadians.
Not the mean. You're one of the nice Canadians.
He brings us maple syrup.
He did. Really good syrup. Yes, he's super good at that.
Yeah.
Tell us that part where you went from Johnny Rockstar to Johnny Badass Speaker God. Where, how did that happen?
It was a transitional period. I don't really know how it happened, to be quite honest. I mean, 1 minute. Well, I could tell you the catalyst for it is that I was a band leader, so I had my own truck, PA, lighting, which I had invested in for my own band, for my own use. And as I was getting older, one of my famous personal quotes was, "I don't plan to be 30 years old and spraying for bugs." No need to go into the story, but the idea was that if I got to 30 years old, chances are I wasn't going to be a rock star. And I got to 30 years old, and I said, okay, it's time to switch gears. And I took, again, looking at my skill set, I looked at it and said, well, look, you've gotten pretty educated in sound. I did all the band sound check and everything, owned all the gear, so I knew my way around the stuff really well. And so turned my small little one PA, one lighting rig thing into a company called B2 Systems in Sudbury, Ontario. And it was fortuitous because a big company there in Sudbury called Half Nelson Systems had gone bankrupt, shut down. And so I came in right behind them. Now, I couldn't do the stuff that they were doing, but they left a big local void of production. So the timing was good. And so as far as that goes, it just started to escalate from there. I mean, my focus changed. So I became more focused on sound rather than playing. And ran B2 Systems for about 6 years, 7 years, and then got bought out from a big company in Toronto. So that basically put me back to ground zero, I guess, in terms of direction. And I decided to move to Toronto and started just freelancing and doing gigs, whether it was corporate or live sound or whatever. But I had this huge passion in speaker technology at the time. And so I kept exercising that. And we didn't have a lot to go on back in those days. We're talking 96, 95, and that kind of time frame. So there was, I think JBL Smart Pro had come out or something. And, there was a few things, but we had no software really to work with, nothing like that. So it was all really boots on the ground testing, did it sound good? Change this. Did it sound bad? Change that. But in that whole kind of thing, it gave me a huge amount of hands-on experience dealing with loudspeakers and some of the pitfalls and what works and what doesn't. For the last several years before I moved to the United States, I actually became a very, sought-after front-of-house sound engineer. Ended up working with Sony Music in Canada, and was going out with their bands. So it was great because they were like my agent. So when one of their bands was closing up a tour, their A&R people would put me out with another band. Yeah. And I got to work with several really, really good bands in Canada during that period, and then of course the whole Adamson L Acoustics thing took off.
Well, yeah, I'd like to talk to you about that actually. Your time with so the audience understands. Bernie Broderick has been on the design team or the designer of some of the best Adamson line array, some of the K2, K1, L Acoustics, and the very array that's sitting behind me, which is probably the most technical. It is an absolute breakthrough in the sense of loudspeaker design and ability, and that's EAW Anya, Bernie. That right there, and of course the wonderful, amazing people, Jim Newhouse and the folks at EAW. And so, as a background, so they understand that. That's who you are. Talk to us about Adamson. It's a unique culture there. You got Brock. And they make an incredible, I'd consider that like a boutique type shop. I mean, they're bigger than ever, but in the scheme of things, but man, they got great product. And what was your impression the time you were there? How did it go?
Yeah, I mean, Brock and I were friends. It's funny because I met Brock because I was bitching and complaining at him. One of the companies that I was working for in Toronto had an early Adamson radial array series. And I was bitching at him because I had JBL Smart Pro now. Ooh. And I was able to find all these deviances in the high frequency of each of the cabinets. So they didn't all sound the same. And anyway, long story short, I ended up leaving that rental company that I was working for, and literally on the drive home, I got a call from Brock Adamson on my Nokia. And which was an upgrade from the Motorola.
You're dating yourself though, still.
Yeah. And he said, I just talked to Bob. I heard you left the company, and I go, yeah. He says, well, keep driving. I want you to come out. I want you to come work for me. And So I said, sure. Literally, we're talking like 30 minutes after I had left the company. So I kept driving, went out to Port Perry, where he was stationed. And at that time, like, the company was in big trouble. They were in really big trouble. They weren't going to survive much longer. And line arrays had come out, and VDOS, of course, was rising really fast and getting really popular. And so it was really opportunistic of me to walk into Adamson at the very time he's designing his new line array box. And I had already been trained on VDOS, and I already knew all the functionality and how it worked, and because I had, the WST criteria and all that. And I was really fortunate in that I was trained by Christian Heil. So I didn't go to a regular VDOS class or something like that. I went to France.
Yeah,
and
you got the cheat of the century right there.
Well, that's he said really fortunate.
Yeah.
Come on, that's like, come on, if you're gonna,
And by the way, just so while I'm on that subject for 1 second, I have video of me sitting with Christian getting trained. And one of these days when I feel like it, I'm going to post that up on YouTube so everybody can watch Christian Heil teaching me in 1999 or 2000 about how WST.
You will invoke such envy, and I bet you a hint of consternation from that post.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, it's
What the hell?
it's amazing.
Well, yeah.
My highest educators, the people who taught me everything I know, in succession for loudspeakers would be, of course, Brock, and then Christian Heil, and then Kenton Forsyth.
Gee.
So not bad teachers. to have,
all heavy hitters,
if
all
you're getting into this
legends in their own right.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I started working with Brock, of course, we became really good buddies, and the shop was really small at the time. There was really only maybe 3 or 4 of us in the front office, basically. And Brock and I were sleeping on couches and eating pizza. I mean, that's literally what we were doing for quite a while as we were designing this system, which I ended up calling it Y-axis, which was what Brock finally adopted.
Yeah, appropriate.
Yeah. He had some Z name, some V name, and I said, you can't use V.
Stay away from V.
You got VDOS, you got Vertec, and we got enough V names going on. Let's go something else. So let's go Y-axis. And so he adopted it, and it was fantastic. And that was my first foray really into loudspeaker design. And I was doing a lot of testing, and I came up with some things on the original co-entrant device, which subsequently got pulled. That's another story. But and Brock was really impressed that I was able to figure out some issues in the waveguide assemblies that he missed. He didn't miss it, but he wouldn't have come to the same conclusions that I did or do the same things that I did that cured the problem. He was impressed with the ingenuity. And so then after that, I stayed with him for 1.5 years or something like that. And then ultimately I was contacted by Jeffrey Cox. At that time it was Cox Audio Engineering. And he said, I want you to come to California. I want to talk to you. Because we were already friends. So I got on an airplane, flew down, went to the shop, and he said, I need a VDOS instructor for North America, and you're the guy. And I'm like, I'm this Canadian guy. You know what I mean? Like, you really don't have any other pick between Europe and the United States?
You are an interesting amalgam of patient, you appreciate for, continuing education. Why do they call you out for the speaker shootouts for NAMM? Why do you stand in there and narrate that and moderate? It's because you have this certain extra skill beyond being, loudspeaker god, that is unquestionable and kind of spotless.
I do have to say that is a hilarious way how I met you.
Yeah, you
was
guys are
controlling
NAMM,
the
right?
race car show of everybody wanting to be a little bit louder.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, that's not accurate.
Yeah.
Well, imagine too, and he has to try to appear to be neutral in between all these vendors, and that's a tricky one. That how you navigate that tightrope that you walked on that particular event.
Yeah.
But no, you're training, mentorship, so on. That's in your blood.
My focus is elsewhere.
Yeah.
I think that I'm seeking other answers to things. I'm not really interested in turn it on, turn it off. I remember one day, here at the shop, you guys were doing a loudspeaker demo outside, and you came up to me the next day or something and said, "Why didn't you come over for the demo?" And I said, "I know what I'm going to hear." So I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I'm always looking for the new thing. What have you done lately And because I know the other stuff, it sounds good. Lots of stuff sounds good these days. So,
Oh, I thought you were going to come over and fanboy Snoop Dogg. That's all I didn't think it was about. It's
Yeah.
like, can I get an autograph? You know, what usually when the rock stars show up.
yeah, well, it's when Snoop shows up for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. But you know, I guess to your point is that I think differently. I believe, and you know, in that context, as you're saying, with the NAMM shootouts,
Yeah.
that graciously with Keith Clark and the Live Sound magazine people, they're the ones that were keeping me in business. I'm actually wearing my NAMM shirt right now, actually.
You are indeed.
When I approach those things, if somebody comes up and says, because they always do, what's your favorite?
Of course.
I say I don't have a favorite. And I really truly mean it. I'm not just trying to dodge the question. I really don't have a favorite. Any of these PAs in here are built on similar science. We can make them sound good. You know, whether they tuned it right today is irrelevant to me, because I think that sound systems are tools. And unless you're actually operating the tool, you don't know how good it works. So you're basically in a subjective format. Somebody else tuned the rig. They played the material, whatever. None of that should mean anything to a sound engineer. What should matter is when I turn 1K up plus 1 dB, did I hear plus 1 dB come up in the PA? You know, that's accuracy. And that makes it a really fine tool. It's like a Ferrari versus an Edsel.
Sure.
You know, I brought my Ducati over, my 1098, right?
Yeah.
And so before that, I had my Hog here, my big old twin. And so that's kind of the comparison.
And at the same time, your other Ducati.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to say one is a lumbering thing that goes down the road, still gets you there. And the other one is a surgical instrument. You know what I mean? So they're very different, although they're both on 2 wheels. So you could make that comparison to sound system.
Yeah.
It's funny hearing you talk and seeing the bikes and stuff that you work on at the shop here when you're not working on audio, and then actually getting you to show me a picture of roughly what some of this stuff looks like, and it's like, wow, it almost kind of looks like a motor, like a 6-cylinder engine or something.
Oh, with the Anya stuff, yeah.
It's like incredible how these weird things you wouldn't think correlate
Yeah.
are just like this and this.
I showed him the
Creative.
picture of the guts of
The engine.
Yeah, the engine, and he didn't believe me for a second.
Yeah.
I said, no, yeah, I could. It looks like it could go in a Ferrari, but it's actually in all 48 of these boxes right here.
Right.
And it took him a minute, right? I mean,
Well, yeah, it's-
yeah, and I don't.
Well, like he's
I don't
saying,
blame
there's
him.
so many. It's crazy
fantastic.
to really dissect how many speaker companies, they're all making great boxes, but nothing has really been like groundbreaking or revolutionary really since this has come out. Like
I
no
would
one's
say
really pushed.
prior to this coming out, and I think you would probably agree, over almost 2 decades, pretty much no movement. Little movement, very little.
VDOS
It was
was
mostly
the last one.
aesthetics.
It was the big
and-
one.
Yeah. So when they developed this product, catch me if I'm wrong, it moved the ball, the goalpost so far forward, in such a giant leap that there is a batch of A1s out there, talented guys that are afraid of this system, trying to figure it out, and that's when Bernie comes in and shows them.
I've sat with Bernie for how many packs of cigarettes have you sat and tried to, you're asking the wrong questions. It's like, yeah, dude, there's a lot to that shit. This one in particular, yeah, there's a lot.
I say that sometimes. You're asking the wrong question. It's like, it came from iRobot, you know? You're asking the wrong question.
You're asking the wrong
Yeah,
question.
totally.
Yeah, I mean, so when you look at the engine inside of Anya, I think the first thing that's apparent is the red anodized heat sinks on the back,
Definitely.
and how absolutely gorgeous they look. That's what really makes it look like an engine. Those were collective decisions based on our perception of quality at the time. So you can't see those things. They're sealed up in the back of the cabinet. But if you ever have to go into the back of the cabinet and you pull that amp module out and you see that inside, it says, it's again, getting back to Ducati, Ferrari, you know what I mean? Like every attention to detail was looked at. This was an engineering tour de force for EAW.
Yes.
That's what it was meant to be. It was meant to be, we are still top dogs engineers. It wasn't built as a commodity product. It wasn't built to be a Me Too product. It was conceived and designed to move the bloody needle, because we had all stalled on traditional line arrays and J-hangs and things like that, and nobody was doing anything differently. And we said, well, we've got Dave Gunnis, we've got Jeff Rocha, we've got, you know, Kenton, we've got all these people. We can do this. And
You knew which problems you were trying to solve.
Right.
Yeah, I think, and this is a response to some of the common, how do I get it up to the balcony? How, how do I mitigate when I'm, up against some, subdivision doing a festival? And this answers many of those questions. Getting the control over sound and signal it's precious. We'll come back to this because this is such we have a lot of choices to put behind us, and we've had other things back there. But my God, the prettiest line of wear ever. Not even speaking to its abilities, which are phenomenal.
Yeah.
So the detail and the attention is clear.
You don't forget it once you've seen it.
No, yeah, I've seen people staring up at like an 18-strong column, just lost. It's like, they're like trying to count it. How is that straight? That's what always gets them when it's straight. There's no banana to it. There's no.
And why is it that I'm 20 feet from it and it's not taking my head off, but it's getting 400 feet away?
Yeah, exactly. Tell us, as I mentioned before, you worked at Acoustic.
Yeah.
Amazing manufacturer, great product. How did you like working there, and your overall impression of the joint?
It was the pivotal moment of my life. The person that sits in this chair was the result of my education and tenure, not only with the brand Acoustics, but also with Christian Heil and, of course, my dearest friend Jeffrey Cox.
Yeah.
Who not only taught me, Christian was the real technical person. He's the guy that really brought down the nuts and bolts of the science to me, and he's a wonderful man and a wonderful human being. But Jeffrey taught me how to be a really good person. We were partners in crime. There was no doubt about it. I was the technical guy. He was the sales guy. And, he used to say to me, well, either of us are very powerful by ourselves, but you put us together and really we can topple any hurdle. Between in this business, between the technical and the sales savvy. So a lot of the things that I still do today harken back to Jeffrey's influence on me as a mentor during that time frame. He always believed in me and always pushed me to go further and further. And then before I knew it, I was doing things that were just inconceivable to me, like when I did the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah.
And installed the first VDOS, that giant VDOS rig. I designed and installed and did all that. And for me, it was like a day of work. I didn't realize.
Incredible.
Pardon me?
That was incredible, yeah.
When you look back on it, you look back on your opportunities and the things that you've.
Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah.
One of the most legendary venues on the planet.
Right.
Working
with Fred Vogler and
the
LA Philharmonic and.
What an opportunity.
Bruce Jackson.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, just unbelievable pools. Sam Burkow, unbelievable pool of talent that were all involved in this, and I still consider myself this fucking dude from Canada. You know what I mean? Like I didn't notice it at the time, but in retrospect now, when I look back, it's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Acoustics shouldn't get lost in the product. Acoustics is a much bigger animal than product. If I was to pat Acoustics on the back today, I would not pat them on the back for their products. What I would pat them on the back for is their unwavering consistency. That company is the most consistent brand on the face of the earth, bar none. There is no brand out there that maintains a ship like Acoustics does. From product development, and that doesn't mean their products are not good, by the way. Their products are exceptional. But I'm saying that's not, to me, their highest accolade. Their highest accolade is how that ship is run. You can always count on them. You can they're always there. They don't deviate.
It's true.
And so many companies just are slamming all over the place. Flavor of the day, and they're trying to chase the dragon. And Acoustics is like, no, we're going that way.
Yeah.
And once Christian makes up his mind that that's the direction, nobody questions it, and they keep going. And he doesn't waver from it either. So that's their huge power, is staying power. Remember when I was working for them and starting in '99, they were just coming in. And now you look at them.
Oh my God.
Right?
One of the top designers, one of the top PAs in the world.
So the most accepted PA in the world by no other measure. And I was really fortunate that I was in at the sharp end of the stick with VDOS. And then subsequently, as I left in 2006, I went to EAW. I got headhunted and went to EAW and then got to work with Anya, so I had two paradigm shifts in my career. And I felt blessed. I truly did, you know. It was serendipitous, you know. It was just pure luck. But I had the most, I look back on my career, it's far from over, but it's been the most amazing ride.
Well, look what you bring to the table. Tell us in kind of elevator speech, the thinking behind Anya, Anna, and Otto. What is the adaptive principles that, like I said, in a kind of elevator pitch, how would you sum that up? So the audience that's not familiar with it, I know I will post, you see probably, I post some of the times when we've used it on my groups and get many people that either have heard about it and would love to work with it, but mostly haven't worked with it and are curious what it actually does.
Well, we had the 7 dwarves, basically. There was 7 of us on a concept team. And it was myself, Jeffrey, Dave Gunnis, Jeff Rocha, Rich Frembus, Jamie Anderson, and Kenton Forsyth. And we all holed up in a chalet. This is absolute truth. We had nothing but booze and debauchery for like a week. We brought in all kinds of alcohol. We had speakers set up. We were getting to know each other. We were, you know, Jeffrey did this and wanted us to become a cohesive unit, all of us. And part of the final part of the agenda was the future. You know, what were we going to do? Where was EAW going to go? And this was, you know, looking back on it, this was a pivotal moment in pro audio, you know, because we sat around a table with hangovers, by the way, and started throwing things on the table as to what we saw as the next step in live sound. The company already had experience with digital manipulation of the wavefront with the KF900 series. Mm-hmm. So we had a lot of math already. But that was just the tip of the spear, you know, in terms of where Anya came from. We reviewed all the pitfalls of line arrays. And one of the big ones, which never got, I discussed it in training, but it never got touted very much. But when you have a traditional line array setup, you have a displaced side hang. And so in the bottom end, there's going to be overlap between the main hang and the side hang, depending on how equalized they are in level. Right. Which ultimately out front, for the sound engineer, makes the low end washy. It's not tight because you've got basically secondary arrivals coming from the other stack, plus all the gack that's going on in the room. And so we said, well, look, you know, we never had this issue when we were barrel shaping KF850s. You know, the bottom end, you should take your face off with those old PAs. And we said, well, that's the problem, is that we're not a point source in the low end anymore. You know, the low ends, the wave guides and horns can control the mid highs to the point where they're not overlapping and having a lot of destructive interference. But the low end, you don't have that option.
Yeah, pretty much everything below 1K just falls to shit.
It just starts overlapping. Yeah. So we said, well, why can't we have both? We knew we were gonna beamform. We knew that much. We knew that that's the direction we wanted to take because we had so much experience in doing that. And we thought, of course, this is, at that time, we were coming up with concepts that the hardware didn't even exist for. So, I kid you not. The problem with the KF900 was it was very cable and equipment intensive to work. Mm-hmm. With Anya, we knew we couldn't do that again. So we basically had to wait for the processors, for the amplifiers to catch up. Yeah. But we had everything in the queue. We were ready. And then the big choice that makes Anya so unique in terms of its look and everything, and the fact that we could hang it straight, you see, that's the big point, is we can barrel shape the PA again. Yeah. That was the big thing. You can't barrel shape a J, but if it's straight, you can do columns and come around. That's right. So now we had these individual columns, like a Tetris, I used to call it, that are sized to the size of the audience section they're covering, but because they're all hanging straight, you can bring them around in a curve in 60 degree, 70 degree angle, and all of that low end comes from a point source. It's all coming from one location behind the PA, and that's why, like on the first Petty tour and on many shows we've done, subs were not a big deal. You know, you can
Well,
get
almost not required, right? I mean,
Right.
this can go to 30 at amplitude. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
we've
I've
heard that before, right?
Yeah.
I've heard shows being spec'd like without subs altogether with this system.
that's when you got an engineer that's confident, most likely familiar with the
Oh,
system
yeah, I'm
and,
sure
and
it's
its
very-
abilities, but it freaks out visiting engineers.
Sure.
I bet.
We bring the 2001s just to,
Yeah.
so they have something to play with. Is it necessary? A lot of times, no. But
depends,
it's
you know.
yeah. But with some engineers, they just don't know what to do, and there's no visible subs.
It's a
freestanding subs. You got to,
Yeah.
it's a tricky one.
Yeah.
So we love the product, as you know.
Yeah.
Tell us how many drivers are in one of those cabinets, Bern.
In Anya, there's 22 drivers,
Oh, just 22.
just 22.
Oh, okay.
And 22 amp channels and 22 DSP channels. So all controlled with Dante IO. So it's
Damn.
it's quite, it had to mature too. Let's not
This is actually version 2. That's
yeah, this is
sitting
a
behind
version
it.
2 amplifier on this. There were some issues on the first pack, but they've done a lot of. They've actually lightened it a little bit as well.
That's right.
So they took some weight off, and very robust now. We'd never had any issues with the drivers or anything else. We were just having some electronics issues, and that's all been solved. And software, you see, that's really come leaps and bounds. That was the big promise. If I could just say this one thing, that was the big promise, and I made a point of coming back to that all the time. Was that we can renew this sound system every 6 months by putting in more features into the software.
That's right.
And that was the promise. It still is, I'm sure,
It absolutely.
that if you buy into this paradigm, you're not stuck with the same PA. Sure, everybody can do different presets, change the sound, but we were actually adding new technical digital features into the sound system. So the I can't remember what it was called now, the EQ, the new EQ that was put in there and stuff. It just like every 6 months or so, there would be a new software release, and it wasn't just a bug fix. There was actually some new feature in there because we had this locked down, and we had all those drivers. So we could do crazy stuff with it because of that.
Yeah, no two ways about that. I know you've been on a lot of tours. Like you said, you were in A1 for a long time. Plus, you went out in support as the speaker legend of, I know when this first went out with Tom and Robert Scoville, you were on that.
Yeah.
I've got photos of you on that.
You got all my photos.
I'm
that
not
appear.
giving you them back. I found it in that cigar box. You said it was cigars. It was
Yeah.
cool-ass photos. I
Yeah.
took it. But which, as related to touring, I know you did a lot of it. What was your favorite tour? What was your favorite moment?
That's really tough because, I toured as a front of house sound engineer too. And there's something to be said when you kind of get to that level of the white glove experience, right? You work really hard, you move a lot of gear throughout your career. And if you're a sound engineer and you finally get to that point where you come off the tour bus and walk in and the gear's all set up and you just got to go do sound check, you feel like you made it. You know what I mean? You finally made it, and you're respected, and your calendar's always full. So I guess I'd have to answer that twice. As far as a sound engineer, the most fun I had was with a Canadian band called the Philosopher Kings. And these guys were amazing. Not only were they amazing musicians, and they were incredibly nice people, and they made the crew part of the family. And that was really important to me. I felt like because I was a musician. So I wanted to understand things about the way they played and the things they did and stuff. And so I was always inquisitive, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And we became really tight. And I was actually there with them as they, the guitar player and the singer were producing Nelly Furtado's first album, and met Nelly, very early on.
Lovely girl.
Yeah, and amazing talents.
Yeah.
In terms of the speaker support and subsequent production work that I did, without a doubt, definitely Robert and Tom Petty.
That was phenomenal shit.
That was because I landed in the same place again. I landed in this family, and that was really important to me. There was no, kind of standoffishness. It was everybody. I was as good of friends with Roland and the riggers, and as I was with Robert or anybody else. You know, it was all just like a really cool thing. And I remember a pinnacle moment for me doing production rehearsals for the second tour, which unfortunately was Tom's last tour.
It was.
And I had my back turned. They were in the Sony studio doing their thing behind me, and my back turned to them, and I'm on eBay. I'm just sitting there, and I'm on eBay, and I stopped, and I went, "You've got to be kidding me! I've got Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers behind me, and they're playing the most amazing songs in the world, and I'm on fucking eBay."
Through the system you designed.
Yeah.
That you're showing proof of concept with to that very audience and those artists.
Right. Yeah.
We all have a moment like that. Where you take for granted almost how lucky you are to be in a.
It was a great moment because it really shone a light on where I was and who I was with and how far I'd come from a guitar player in a dive bar to here I am with my back turned to the band playing, you know, the greatest hits, Tom Petty's greatest hits, and I said, "That's it." You know, turned around, sat there, and never looked at the computer again for the whole production rehearsals. I just kept my eyes focused and wanted to drink in,
take it all in,
everything I could, and
well, look at now after what sadly Tom's passing, which was a legend as it relates to road crew, as his the way he treated his crews, and this is local crews, this is anybody that was backstage moving shit, plugging things in. He was one of the best for appreciation. Consider usually knew everybody's name. I was talking to Bob about this, Robert about this, and extraordinary guy, and lucky that you did have that extra time because people go away without any notice, and tragic that he went away. But you're very fortunate to have that time with him, that close-up extra time, and I know he loved what you did, loved it.
Well, he used to call it Robert's special PA. That's what he used to call it. Yeah. He didn't know, and it was quite ironic that here we had somebody who was so organic in his music and the way he did things, and here he is with this technological marvel of a PA. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it was all for the fans. He didn't say we had to use an old
if it was the latest and greatest
850 rig or something because it was more analog.
Well, that's how he captured my sound.
Yeah, he was fine with the fact that Robert said this is the best tool for the job, and he whatever Robert said, I mean, he wasn't led around by the nose by any means, but he highly respected Robert and all the years they'd worked together, and generally if Robert said this is what he wanted to use, that's what they did. And this was the first time the PA had ever gone out on tour. Mm-hmm. It's a huge risk. To this day, I still thank Robert immensely for the risk that he took with his band, with the whole camp. This thing was out, and nobody had ever put it in a truck on a tour before.
Well, not just that. EAW is known for being customer service. Being there to back up a system. They sent you out. You had all the tricks. Anything happened, you were right there for them. They've been good with our stewardship of this PA. When we've had issues, they're right there for us. Yeah. So I think it says a lot about the company.
It was a safe bet.
That they'd send out one of their lead designers, one of the lead engineers to support that on this massive tour, which was a sound image thing, and so we all had a vested interest in seeing everybody succeed and look good, and you did it. And this thing goes out and proves itself every time. It's a spectacular piece of engineering, and it's actually pretty to boot.
It's pretty.
It's pretty good on how you do that. We know.
Good on you.
Yeah, right. We know from past interactions that you were working a big job down south, down Monterey way, for Rick Allen, Def Leppard's drummer. That's who we're talking about. How did that go? Where is it at? Done? Complete? What are you doing?
It's still going. I was ill for several weeks and had to kind of take a wee bit of a hiatus. I had to kind of regain my health and didn't have COVID, thank God. But I wasn't feeling very good, and I had to slow everything down. I was just overdoing it. Yeah. It was basically I was burning out, and
you were working till 2 and 3 in the morning. I can see it.
And I had a lot of irons in the fire at the time, and I still do. But I just had to kind of recharge my batteries and stuff. So Rick was fine about it, and we just kind of slowed the pace down a little bit. I was just there yesterday. I went down to his place yesterday, and I'm going to be. It's almost like I've become Rick's Man Friday. You know, because when he has an idea or things they want to do that's production oriented, I'm sure Ronan, the Def Leppard sound engineer, would be the Man Friday if he lived here, because he's such a trusted and longstanding a member of the group.
And
but
the badass in his own right.
and he's a total badass. But in his absence, it's kind of like I'm Rick's production confidant, you know. So if he's going to do something, then he'll buzz me, like he was calling me before the show started, and I'm like, no, I can't talk right now. But he's got some web stuff that he wants to do coming up, and he knows that I have experience doing this with the YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So now I've kind of been drawn into helping get this all set up and running for those guys. And his amazing wife, Lauren Monroe, who's an amazing talent. She's kind of in the place that I was going into the pandemic, where she was on the upswing. You know, like she was writing these amazing songs. By all means, look for her. Maybe we can put a link up or something. Lauren Monroe, and then the pandemic kind of shunted off her escalation in terms of getting out and playing and touring, and she was right there. She was ready to go. So now we're looking at ways to fill that void for her and to give her as much exposure as she can get without actually having the ability to go out and do live concerts for people. So that's kind of the you know, with Rick, it's wonderful because it's not like it started off as, you know, more or less a straight ahead. Here's what I want you to do. Here's what it costs. Blah 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 blah. But it's just morphed into this really amazing friendship. And so we sit around, and yesterday we were making each other cry in tears, just joking around about the old days. And you want stories, you know what I mean? Like the biggest band of the 1980s, you know what I mean? If you want to know stories,
that decade, man.
Right?
Yeah,
I'm sworn to secrecy, but I tell you what, man, there was tears streaming down my face, and he's quite the gentleman.
I'm sure he is.
He's a dear friend.
Hopefully one of these days, maybe we'll bring him on the show.
I'm sure he would love to. Yeah.
He's a sweetheart, and that would be really good. You building any speakers? Am I allowed to talk about it?
Yeah, sure.
I heard some sawing and some metal work going on out there. What's your latest?
Yeah, I mean, we've done some refinements on the speakers that I had shown on the show before. Of course, these are all Rick speakers that he's paying me to make for him, but he also knows they're prototypes. So, you know, prototypes work is never done.
That's true.
And so I did the smaller speakers, what I call the Jewel 240s.
The baby guys?
Yeah.
No, those are great.
So I'm working on a different version of them now. So there's actually going to be two versions. And what I was astonished by with the speakers that I built was how much output they had. They were loud, but they didn't quite go low enough for me. You know, they went low. They went plenty low. But depending on your application, they would be perfectly fine. But if you're going to want like a home stereo type thing, you would definitely need to have some sub support, or you know, if you're taking them out, you know, whatever usage for more modern music, I guess I felt. Other people that have heard them said they're just fine the way they are. But I'm like, I can get more out of it, you know? So currently I've been designing a new one that uses a different low end driver, and I'm testing that. So so basically what I'm gonna have is probably a 240 EB, which will be extended bass, and 240 HO, which will stand for high output. So, because you can't have both in a box this big. You know what I mean? You can either have higher output, which means you're basically high passed a bit, or you can go for the deeper bass, but you're not going to get the same amount of output out of it. So I'm having fun with that. You know, moving into different realms of things that I was working on before, subwoofer design, and I had a lot of things, and I had a lot of irons in the fire technically that I'm kind of circling back to now, different electronics projects and things like that I want to use in my speakers going forward. And so now I'm basically circling back to some of those things. And so yeah, and learning and teaching myself how to MIG weld with a spool gun. So you saw me out there.
Yeah, you seem like you're getting it, but you know,
I'm getting it.
That's the thing about you, and not everybody's like this. You're not afraid to take on something new right out of the box, just like bam. Okay, I can figure this out.
It's hilarious every time I roll in here every morning. I'm
This
like,
fucking guy.
what the fuck is he up to today?
Yeah,
dude?
well,
What is he doing in the corner?
Let's talk about it. I know you've got your ongoing speaker stuff, but also you own this amazing show hauler. It's like a Mercedes engine. I think it's Kenworth or something.
It's a Freightliner chassis, Columbia chassis with a Mercedes. I think it's MBE 4000 engine, Allison transmission.
Yeah, this is a serious piece of equipment.
Serious piece of
it's
kit,
a production vehicle called the show hauler.
Show hauler, yeah.
But you decided
I started
to tear down the ass end of the thing right down to just studs.
Yeah.
And replace it Bernie Broderick way.
Bernie Broderick style, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one of those diversified kind of things I did because I own two RVs. I already owned an A-Class, which I've had since my son's racing days. And then for the company, for Truth and Audio, because we were going to be a mobile training academy, I worked out a deal with Dave Ron and Alcon's Audio.
Good man.
To buy their show hauler, which they had used for demo purposes. Mm-hmm. So I had two of these big rigs sitting there that were not doing anything. They were just sitting. And a good friend of mine, Gerald Stevens, when I spoke to him one day, he just mentioned, he goes, why don't you just rent them out? You know, like there's these websites you can go to and you can post it and stuff. And this was before the pandemic. So I dabbled, you know, that's my stuff. I don't want anybody to break anything and blah, blah, blah. And then when I started looking at other means of making money, I said, well, I got to go back to this because I own these two rigs. They're insured, they're registered on the road. I need to monetize these things and get them to make money. So I put the Damon, the A-Class, up on the website, and within short order, it got rented out. And now it's gone. It went at the beginning of July, and it's coming back the 1st of August. The family took it for a month.
That's fantastic.
So the Damon, the A-Class was kind of the lesser of the two vehicles, monetarily speaking. Show hauler being a much more expensive vehicle.
Quite a machine, yeah.
So I said, okay, well, I'm going to cross my fingers here, and I'm going to put the show hauler up as well. And because of its original price tag and stuff being quite high, it commands more in the rental market to rent it out. I always call it the biggest dick in the RV lot.
It's a special, it's hard to describe this thing. It is not like, although it has RV characteristics, this is a diesel.
Yeah. It's a formidable, it's a semi with a...
It's a semi with
a house on it.
Yeah, with a house on it.
You really I wish we had a picture of it.
It's sick, man. We'll bring that up next week. We'll just flash that, because it is special.
So anyway, just to end that off, because of that, the rig has to be beyond expectation as far as I'm concerned. If I'm going to get the highest return on investment on the rental, then it's got to be perfect. So what I'm going to do is actually quite fun. Is first of all, as you know, I gutted the whole rear because I wanted to remodel it and just modernize everything. There's a lot of really nice stuff out there right now. But I'm also going to make it the most kick-ass party RV out there. And that doesn't mean like disco balls or anything like that. What it means, it'll have a formidable video system. It'll have a formidable audio system, so that if you're going to a game or you're going to the park, and you're going to have the shit, inside and outside. If you want to throw a party, then you're going to have a professional grade audio and video system, not something from Best Buy. It's going to be pro grade stuff.
Wow.
And we'll also probably use it for our own usage for demoing our speakers and things like that, and kind of build that into the whole design.
So the larger plan is in play right now. You're working your little heart out as usual. And and it's impressive to watch. We had a question from one of the guys in the shop that I wanted to ask you. His name's Kyle.
Kyle.
He's right over there.
How you doing?
Fresh haircut, we'll call him. Looking good, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. I had him write it down because I wanted to get it right. You've always pushed for innovation over profit in your career. What are some of the new ideas and products you see as game changers? It's a tough one. The kid comes up with them.
It's a tough one for sure.
I think you just want.
Honestly, I don't. I don't want this to sound harsh, but I don't see any.
All right.
It's an honest to God answer, you know. And so, but that's only me, right? So, like I said, with the people I've worked with in my career, I've been fortunate enough to peek behind the curtain on a lot of technology and a lot of crazy stuff that people have tried and done and succeeded in. And you know, if you've talked to me for 10 minutes, like Vince has once in a while, I'm vehemently against corporate influence on our industry. And that's where I largely place the blame on my own feelings, is that there's been such a Me Too kind of process in a lot of the things that happen. Loudspeakers in particular, because that's my forte. But I mean, you know, you have singular brands out there that own, like one console company that owns, what, 4 other console companies. You know, it's so there won't be the competition that you think there should be, and competition drives innovation. So people are like, we have to one up. Like this was EAW's one up. This was, and we were owned by a corporation at the time, but we were so convinced that this is the thing. We fought this. We were covert. We were doing things in the dark, so nobody could see us doing it. And we're a real grassroots industry, and we were always boots on the ground, and we tear things apart and figure how they work. And so when it comes to innovation, I guess I have a higher trigger point than maybe a lot of people do, because again, going back to the demo, you know, what am I going to hear that I didn't hear before? Kind
Sure.
of.
Sure.
And that sounds really sarcastic and a little bitter, but
Yeah, it doesn't sound sarcastic. It sounds like
a little
jaded acceptance of the nature of stagnation in some parts of the audio world.
And I'm not trying to be mean, and I'm not trying to say that companies are not building exceptionally good products. They are, but I want them to fail. I want everybody to fail, because if you're failing, you're trying. You know, when, like my son's racing, right? If you push hard, you crash, and you failed, but you pushed hard. You know, and that's kind of part of my whole DNA, is I would rather try and fail on something that I believed in, which is what started Truth in Audio in the first place.
Yeah.
Which is why I jumped out of a wonderful career with a very comfortable paycheck and everything, and said, I'm going down that road now. Had nothing to do with any of I loved all the companies I worked for, and but I had to do this myself. Again, fully knowing that I could fail at what I was trying to do, but I'd rather do that and fail than just sit in one spot and just repeat, you know? And it may not have served me well financially, but in my heart and in my head, I'm a really happy guy when I wake up in the morning, because
Priceless.
I look at my day, and I look at all of the things that I not only want to do, but need to do. I need to make this speaker. I need to do this work. And that's why you see me sometimes at midnight, 1, 2 in the morning. I'm not driven by a paycheck. I'm driven by successful completion of something.
Oh, passion. You got a lot of passion.
It's a passion for it. So I think that right now we had a lot of downtime. So certainly a lot of people are sitting around stewing on science right now, and stewing on things. Okay, so I got one for you. The most incredible innovation that I have witnessed in the last, actually in my career, which is still ongoing, is the use of sound to focus and kill cancer cells. Mm-hmm. So finding resonant frequencies of cancer cells and actually using audio to vibrate cancer cells at their resonant frequency and destroy them. That is the most amazing thing I have ever witnessed. And I'm honored that it has the word sound in it. Mm-hmm. You know, that I'm part of that construct, as big as it is. You know, that just blew my mind. There's some great videos on it out there and stuff. And basically, you know, like a wine glass, you can find the resonant frequency of a wine glass and it'll break, but the one next to it won't. And so this is what they're experimenting with, and they say it works, is that they can hone in on the resonant frequencies of certain cells and things like that, and using sound without disrupting any of the organs or any of the other cells, they can annihilate cancer cells.
Yeah, fascinating. Incredible.
And that just blows my mind.
So there's a future thing right there.
Yeah. Sorry, it wasn't directly to deal with live production.
No, I think
No,
your
no.
your response is exact. I've had enough conversation with you that is exactly what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
You're so good, Bern.
Yeah, it's a proud
And
proud
please.
thing to see stuff like that for me.
Yeah.
Listen, baby, I could talk to you all night.
You probably will.
Well, after this,
After
you
this.
ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Masks go back on. Yes, honey, we're wearing masks. And you'll hang out, huh? And
Absolutely.
thank you so much for coming in with that white. We got it back there with white pony, and I'm sorry I made you take off the cape, but
That's fine.
You know,
It's
just
fine.
continuity with the show.
I know, black and until I find
but
something
it was
blacker.
lovely, and we really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Anytime,
brother.
man. Anytime you want me.
Yeah, thank you, Bernie Broderick.
All
Well.
right.
Hey, listen, I want a little shout out to Patrick O'Rourke. We get things here at the show. People send us stuff, and I'm sure you guys have seen this. The COVID-19 stole my festival 2020 version. These little stickers, they're kind of getting around. And so thank you, Patrick, for sending this to me. We appreciate it very much, and your continued support. We've got a lot of people, Susie, Spike Wise, Pat O'Doul, my lovely sister, Cameo. Hi, Cameo. Love you, sweetheart. VIP Live. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We really appreciate you, the viewer, the audience. We couldn't do it without you. We do it for you. We hope you enjoy the show. I also get a lot of help from my crew, mainly to shoot a little shout out over there, Mr. Brown, Mr. Michael Brown. He does, I know, right? I love me some Mike Brown. He's a great man. He takes care of most of our technical needs. And then, of course, the good people here at Sound Image, my brother George Edwards, our general manager. Thank you, George, for letting us use the space. You're the man. And our amazing CEO and really mentor to many, Dave Shadone. Thank you, David, for allowing us the space. We're also lucky enough to have some good friends over at LSV who help us with the camera technology. That's John Rigney and his people over at LSV Large Screen Video. If you ever need anything that's large, big lead walls, call John over at LSV. And the good people that provide our masks and other fabric-related items here at the shop and our other shops, slowfiber.com. Great people, great resource. If you ever need custom masks or some kind of fabric sewing related items, reach out to slowfiber.com. Great people. And of course, some love over here to you, young man. Thank you for helping me do this and all your contributions. I really appreciate you. And we should send out our best wishes to our friends and lovers and strangers and their singer, Ray Bertolino. Buddy, we'll reschedule and we'll have you back again soon. It's our loss, but we hope you get on the road and get safe as quick as possible. We do this every week, 7 p.m. Thursdays, right there on YouTube. I honestly have forgotten who's next week. Does anybody know who's our guest next week? I believe it's Greg Price. If it's Greg Price,
I believe it's Greg Price.
legend, Black Sabbath guy, Ozzy. He does, if it's a hard Tool, Rage Against the Machine, Van Halen, he's engineered for them, and he'll provide a hell of a show, and we're looking forward to that. Until then, please take very good care of yourself, be kind to each other, and good night.
Have a good night, guys.